In this video, we're going to use the ArcGIS API for Python to update the extent of a web map in ArcGIS Online. So let's check it out. We're going to query a feature layer to return a single polygon where we're going to access the geometry and get the envelope as a bounding box before we update our map extent. Up top, we are importing our GIS class so we can access ArcGIS Online and its content. We're also importing the map class so we can interact with a web map. And we're also importing the geometry class so we can get the bounding box of a polygon feature. So let's take a look at how we can update a web map with a new extent based on a polygon feature in one of its layers. We have some required objects here. We require the web map item ID, which I'm going to paste in now. The layer name is county boundaries. And we need to enter an SQL clause to limit that bounding box geometry based on the layer filter. So here it's going to be county equals, and I'm going to zoom and center my map on Galway. We have one helper function here to get layer index by name. And this function takes in a web map item and the layer name, and it returns the index in the map where that layer sits. Now for this example, we only have one layer in the web map, but if you had multiple layers and you wanted to zoom to a feature based on one of those polygon layers, you need to know the index of that layer in the web map. We access ArcGIS Online using our GIS class and supplying in the home string. We'll assign our GIS object to a variable called AGOL. We then get the web map as an item object, so we use our GIS object, the content manager get method, and supplying in that web map item ID. The get method will return an item object that will assign to web map item. From that item object, we're going to create a web map object. Well, it's actually a map object. So we use our map class and supply in our web map item object, and we'll assign our map object to a variable called WebMap. Now that we've access to our web map through the map object, we're going to get the bounding box info for County Galway in Ireland through the county boundaries layer. We need to know the index of the layer in the web map. So here we create a variable called layer index, and we're calling our get layer index by name function, supplying in our web map item and our layer name. As there's only one layer in the web map, our layer index will be 0. Now that we have our layer in our web map isolated, we need to get a feature layer object. In order to get the feature layer object, we need to trace back from the layer in the web map to its feature service and access the feature layer. So here we're using the map object content property, which is a map content object that has a layers property. This layers property will return a list of feature layer objects. And we're only interested in the feature layer object for our county boundaries layer in the map, which sits at our layer index variable of 0. Once we have our feature layer object, we'll assign that to a variable called FL. Now that we have our feature layer object, we can call the query method that will return a feature set based on the parameter set for the query. Here we're using a where clause, setting that to equal our SQL clause, which was county equals Galway. This will return one feature in the feature set that will assign to a variable called F. So you can see we're gradually getting more granular, and now we have a single polygon isolated from our county boundaries layer. Next, we get the bounding box of the polygon geometry. Here we're using our geometry class, and we're supplying in our feature set where we're accessing the first feature in that feature set, which is the polygon for County Galway. From that feature, we're accessing the geometry attribute. We'll then have a geometry object where we can access the envelope property, that is the minimum bounding box for the polygon geometry. Now that we have the bounding box, we can update the extent of our web map. We use our map object and the extent property and set that to equal the bounding box. All there's left to do is to update the map object. So we call the map object and use the update method to commit the extent change. I'm going to run the script. The script is complete. I'm going to head over to ArcGIS Online and check out the result. Here I have my web map, and here's how it looked before I applied the extent update. Now when I refresh the web map, we can see that our web map extent has been updated to the bounding box of Galway. So there you have it. We have successfully used the ArcGIS API for Python to update the extent of a web map based on a Polygon feature in a web map layer. Make sure to check out more ArcGIS API for Python workflows up here, and be sure to subscribe. Take care.